Hi, my name is Deborah Henney. I'm a wife, author, mother, speaker. Today I want to release a prophetic word that I originally received January 24th of 2023. And when I got this word, I saw a huge shield and it was glowing. And as I prayed into it, this is what I sensed the Lord say. He said, there is a dispensation of faith coming. I am releasing greater measures and depths of faith into my people. This will create a building up, a thickening, and a fortifying. This is for protection and for victory. This greater release will empower my people to move and go forth boldly, completing works in my name that have not been seen since the beginning. I am preparing my people even now for this next release. There is an aligning, an untwisting, and unblocking in minds and hearts. And with this aligning, I am enlarging capacities to bear my presence and glory. Receiving this faith does not come from striving, but from humility and surrender. Wielding this faith does not come from devising, but from listening, aligning, and releasing. When my people learn and apply these keys, darkness will be pierced, strongholds will be destroyed, and demons will flee. Yes, even when my people are not in the usual places of congregating. I am releasing the faith of heaven. For if my will is to be done on earth as it is in heaven, then my people need to have and use the same type and measure of faith as the angels in heaven. There is a partnering, a collaborating of my people with my angels. Yes, this has been happening, but this will also be increased. And my people have a heightened awareness of angels around them, and angels I am even assigning to individual ones. I will teach my people how to work together with my angels to accomplish my word and my works. This is to increase effectiveness, for the harvest is great. The work is great, and I desire my people to labor in grace with joy and in my rest. So, God has been speaking to me quite a bit about angels and about the partnership that we as human beings have with angels as ministers to the Lord and of His word in here on the earth. And what's interesting is even in my own life and in my own worship, as I'm like at my church, for example, and I'm just praying and I'm worshiping, I'm really getting into it. There's been like a progression of becoming more aware of angels around us to actually seeing angels in our church building worshiping the Lord together with us. It's like mind-blowing. So I'm very interested to see that part of this word and how it winds up getting played out with people that I know and that I don't know. You know, that God is assigning and commissioning angels to specifically to co-labor and to work with them to bring greater effectiveness and greater power in their ministry to minister the word and the works of the Lord. Some other things that really jumped out at me since I've received this word back in January, as I've said before, oftentimes with a prophet, you have to walk through the word and it becomes woven and becomes a part of you as you almost like become a living revelation of the word that God gave you. Obviously not perfect. Still, each one of us on this side of heaven will never have arrived, but there's an ongoing progressive learning and growing this side of heaven. So anyway, in the beginning he said there's a dispensation of faith and aligning and untwisting and unblocking in minds and hearts. And the key is not striving, but humility and surrender. And even more since I've received this word, He has been teaching me not just to cast down my crowns, but to cast down my trash, and to release, wounds and lies that I've been believing and things that I didn't even realize I was holding on to, but I was because it was comfortable. And as I surrender those areas to the Lord, it is incredible the waves of powerful peace and joy that just wash over me and filled me all the way to the deepest parts. And it is so powerful. And it's interesting because even, it happens throughout my day, and I still work out in the community. And even in my position at work, I'm getting different responses and reactions, and seeing people respond to the love and the peace and the joy that God is placing in me and overflowing in my life. And what it really feels like is an unblocking. It's like those areas where, whether or not we're aware of those areas where we maybe have a misalignment with God's truth, or a hurt or a wound or an offense or something, whether or not we're consciously aware of it, it creates a block. And as we release that, and He opens our mind to see that, and as we release those areas to Him, as He shows them to us, it is an unblocking that is unblocking like a deep wellspring of life, is kind of the only way I can really describe it. It's incredible. And it's like an enlarging capacity, that He's enlarging the capacity to bear His presence and His glory. And He said, even for the works that will be happening, even when they're not in the usual places of congregating. So again, here He's saying, this isn't just for when we're in the walls of a physical church building. This is for when we're at our jobs. This is for when we're going to the grocery store, when we're going to the gym, when we're jogging in the neighborhood, what have you, wherever we are. This isn't just a word for us to operate in and to have in our minds like, oh yeah, that's for when I go to church on Sundays or Wednesday nights. No, this is for us to take out into the community to be a living, breathing demonstration of His love and the power in His love, joy, and peace. But again, it comes from surrender, not from striving. Because I can tell you the times that I've tried to posture my heart in that position of childlike faith and surrender, and I've tried to do it from a place of striving, it does not work. It only works when you fully surrender to the Lord and the work that He's doing. So a dispensation of faith. And that word specifically, dispensation of faith, felt very significant. It was like He was handing out these glowing shields, but He hands out, but we have to receive. If we don't receive, we're not going to experience it, and we're not going to be living in it. So He is giving it out. He is giving out greater measures and depths. I like that he said not just measures like a filling up, but a depth of going down deep. So again, and He's released several words through me in January, specifically about going down deep in order to do work, whether it's healing, whether it's surrendering, whether it's an infilling. Again, so this was again a deep faith. And He later said types of faith, and I have a note here in my journal. I asked Him, I was like, what do you mean by types of faith? And He answered me, haven't you read the parable of the sower? And he often, when He answers with a question, I know I have to go digging. So of course we have the parable of the sower. We have the path where the birds stole the seed. We have the rocky soil where it grew up quickly because they were excited, but they didn't have the depth, and they got scorched by the sun. And then there was the thorns where they started to grow but got choked out because they got too worried about things of this world and got distracted and choked out. And then there was the good soil where, again, deep, fertile, rich soil that had been cultivated, because you don't get good soil without cultivation, without work. You might get clay, you might get sand, you might get a rocky soil, you might get a weedy, thorny soil, but you don't get good soil that is ready to produce a bountiful harvest without working at it. So again, it was that same sense of we have a part. God does the work, but we have to participate and allow Him to do that deep work. Like when you rototill and you go down deep and you turn up the soil, and you put the fertilizer in the soil. All those things that God is doing in our hearts to heal and to churn up that cogwork, a word that I released a bit ago about a turning and a churning and a turning, about digging deep again, to bring about a great work in our hearts and in our minds that will yield a bountiful harvest, a harvest of truth in our lives and in the lives of those that God appoints us to minister to. And it was interesting that rocky soil really was highlighted. That this, we think that, oh, we're responding with joy in faith, and we're like, yes, and we're all enthusiastic, but that isn't actually the same thing as learning how to rejoice in the Lord, oh my soul, no matter what, even when circumstances happen and bad things happen, because we live on this earth, they happen. We live in a fallen world, and just still maintaining that heart posture of operating in God's joy, in God's peace, which is such a life-sustaining strength. So that enthusiasm that we get when something's new isn't the same thing as our soul learning to posture itself, or we learn to posture our soul in joy and rejoicing in the Lord in all circumstances. Because that enthusiasm would be more like that rocky soil, where as soon as something bad happens, it gets scorched. It's gone. Because it's dependent upon circumstances. But what God is calling us to is to hold the line in praises of faith, to operate in His peace and in His joy, which is not dependent on circumstances, but it comes from that unblocking and being able to allow God to be a wellspring of life as we surrender to Him. So again, this will be key to us bringing that power out in our communities. That will be undeniable evidence that God is alive and God is here and involved and loves every single one of us. And He wants us to live in wholeness and freedom. All right. Blessings till next time.